two, and one, and we are live for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. How are you doing today, Seth?
I'm good.
All right, a quick thank you to our sponsor this week. We are sponsored by All Set Auto, North America's leader in paint protection and restyling, offering colored wraps, paint protection, window tint, ceramic coating, and more exclusively for electric vehicles. We have a link in the show notes to go check out their stuff, but we're going to have a little more to say about them and their franchise system too later on the show, so stay tuned for that. All right, I'm coming in to you live from Spain this week. I've been doing a little bit of a test drive about a cool electric vehicle here in the Canary Islands in Tenerife. I just got done with it actually. But I cannot talk about it. It's under embargo for a few more days. No, actually a few more weeks really. So
Really?
I don't think I'm going to be able to talk about it next week. But the week after that probably. But you're going to be able to talk about your last week's test drive of the GMC Sierra EV Denali, which is lined up there. And because I was out here all week and driving the car, I didn't have a ton of time, so I didn't have there's not a ton of Tesla. No, to be honest, I stayed up to date with the Tesla news. There wasn't that much Tesla news this week either way. But for those of you who don't like Tesla news, there's just three little items that we could get through real quick. And then we're going to talk about Seth's Denali drive. Audi just unveiled a new e-tron GT lineup, which include the RS, with almost 1,000 horsepower. The Ioniq 9 was fully unveiled this time. Then the EV9 GT version. I don't know who's asking for that, but it's been unveiled. The new EV6 was unveiled following the Ioniq 5 a few weeks ago. The new model year. It's not a whole new car or anything. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the controversial Jaguar redesign, rebranding that they're doing. Then a little bit more sadder news in the EV space, and then we're going to jump into you guys' question as usual. We should have some time to answer your questions, so if you have any question about any of these topics that we're about to discuss or any other topics in the EV world that you want our take on, you can put them in the comment section. I'm going to remind you of that later on the show as more people join in, because we are live everywhere. All right, so we've been tracking a lot, like Tesla's incentive. Tesla's, both Seth and I were thinking about potentially upgrading our vehicle in this quarter or maybe the next one. So we're tracking the incentive situation, the pricing situation at Tesla quite closely. And what's interesting with this quarter is that Tesla is actually early in getting some deep discounts, some incentives to buy that are quite attractive. And it's like I thought that they pulled all the trigger by now, but it's still going. And there's a big one this week. Doesn't necessarily apply to us, because I'm not that big on leasing. I like to own my car, but the Model Y lease for the long-range rear-wheel drive, which Tesla doesn't break down its different variants in terms of cells, different trims for each model, but the Model Y, it's its best-selling vehicle, and this is the base model of all its vehicles. So I would assume that this is most likely Tesla's best-selling trim of all. And it just got a pretty significant lease price drop. We're talking about a $50 price drop now to $299 a month, which is pretty low. That's with a down payment though, which $299. So, $299 per month, $2,999 down payment over 36 months, and so that now it's $100 less than the all-wheel drive, and it's also the same price as the base Model 3, which is also a long-range rear-wheel drive, and it's and that car, the Model Y, costs $2,500 more. So if you just straight up buy it or finance it, it's going to cost you $2,500 more. But if you lease it, it's the exact same price. So you can lease a base Model Y for the same price you can lease a base Model 3. So you have to think that Tesla is taking a significant discount here on this. And you still have, of course, the APR at 0 to 1.5, depending on the deals, all over the US and Canada, and some places in Europe too, and China, obviously. So the discounts keep coming. You also have Tesla also recently added 3 months of free Supercharger and full self-driving, which was previously just for inventory vehicles. Now it's for any new orders. And as long as you take delivery by the end of the year, of course, because the goal is to deliver a record number of cars by the end of the year, 515,000. That's where Tesla needs to be in order not to be down year over year in overall in deliveries, which would have, of course, a pretty big impact.
So two things coming up for the Model Y, the Juniper version, beginning of next year, and you mentioned the trying to get to the record. I really think like right at the end of the year is going to be probably the best priced Model Y we've ever seen. Just because they're going to need to get every last sale out.
And I think like in the US, like one of the big incentive is the tax credit probably going away, but that doesn't apply to everyone, I should say.
Right.
And also it probably won't go away right away. Like first of all, Trump needs to be in the White House, and that's January 20th, I think.
Yeah. So, inauguration. Yeah.
And also I don't know if it's going to be the first order on the menu, but it could probably take a few months. Maybe we still have the tax credit for a whole other quarter. It's not clear. Maybe there's even they remove it but they phase it out over time. I don't know, that would be a nice thing to do. I don't know if Trump is into doing nice things, but we'll see. This is kind of a little rumors that Elon has been sharing around this week about a bigger electric vehicle that Tesla would be working on. So he responded basically at two different people on the same day earlier this week on Twitter, on X. And with one of them, Elon has been like asking people to have bigger families, to have more children and all that, because he's very afraid of declining population and lower birth rate. So he keeps talking about that, and people who talk about that often reference Elon. So a woman talked about she has or she wants to have a big family, but she wants to have an electric car that would fit that. So she's asking Elon for an electric car that would be big enough for a large family, and Elon simply responded okay to that. So that started the rumors. But then shortly after, someone else did the same thing. Someone else, I think we had 9 children, if I'm not mistaken.
9
or a family of 9 maybe. So that would be 7 children.
9
unless they're Mormon. But no, that's not legal anymore, right? So the Elon responded to that. That's great to see. And then he refers a Robovan, which is a higher capacity vehicle, obviously. So he said Tesla Robovan is in development. When it was unveiled last month, it was unveiled like a sort of like a one more thing to the Cybercab, but without any timeline, unlike the Cybercab. So again, Elon is not elaborating much here, just by saying it's in development. But then he said some other things too, which would point to Tesla having other vehicles in development that are bigger vehicles, because obviously the only 2 vehicles we know right now that are in development, other than the Robovan and Cybercab, I should say the only 2 unveiled Tesla vehicles that are in development are based on the Model 3, Model Y platform, and are expected to be actually smaller, cheaper vehicle, not bigger vehicle. So this would be news. However, don't hold your breath, don't get too excited, because this bigger, higher passenger capacity vehicle has been in the plan since 2016 when Elon unveiled the Tesla Master Plan Part 2. There was a reference to a high passenger density urban transport. Now, you could argue that the Robovan fits that category. Obviously, the Robovan doesn't have a steering wheel or driver capacity, so it needs to be completely autonomous. And a lot of people, ourselves included, have doubts about Tesla achieving a level of vision-based autonomous driving anytime soon that would enable this kind of vehicle. So people are mostly excited, including most likely the people who wrote to Elon about this, that they want a bigger electric Tesla vehicle that they can drive. I think that's the goal here. But Elon has been very weird about every time you ask him about Tesla should do this, Tesla should do that, Tesla should do a cheaper vehicle, he's always nah. All of this doesn't mean anything because self-driving is coming and all that. So some people saw this as a little straying away from that kind of attitude, but I don't know. I don't know exactly. It's really hard to read his mind these days. All right. This happened yesterday and this morning. So yesterday, Tesla announced the on their webpage for NACS, where they track which electric vehicles or which electric vehicle manufacturers can get access to the Supercharger network in the US, Tesla added Nissan yesterday. So we reported that, but then today we learned that Nissan reached out to us saying that this was not correct. And sure enough, Tesla removed the mention from their website today. And Nissan told us that it's still coming by the end of the year. So we assume most likely probably next month. But for now, Aria driver, obviously because Nissan Leaf driver are still on Shademo and they won't get access to the Supercharger network either way. But Aria driver will. So it's coming soon, just not that soon. I don't know if you saw that, Seb, but that was pretty funny.
I did see it.
When I reported
Tesla says,
when I reported yesterday, like, so when I see those, like, the first way I see someone being added to the list is through Tesla's website. So I have an alert that tells me that Tesla updated that page, and I go look at that page. I'm like, oh, Nissan is there. But then I don't necessarily use that because there's no other information there. So I go then to the automaker that's being added, because normally that's when they released their plan for adapters and then maybe even integration into future vehicles. But then I couldn't see that from Nissan, so I'm like, all right, well, Tesla says it, so it's probably true. But just to be sure, since I don't have a second source, I'm going to just say that Tesla says that Nissan driver and everything. there was this Tesla super fan that's like, oh, Fred, you're always so negative about things. You say that Tesla says instead of just saying that Nissan drivers have access to the Supercharger network. And then sure enough, the next day, that was not true. You always have to have two sources, people. That's important.
Especially when one of them is Tesla.
Yeah, I didn't go that far. I set one shot. I said that.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of set, tell us a little bit about the GMC Sierra EV Denali. Which,
well, so this is the
vehicle.
So this is the 2025 version. We've already kind of played around with the 2024. It's basically a Chevy Silverado with a nice luxury upgrade. I think it looks a little bit better as well. I like the front end. GM also showed off their kind of Tesla Powerwall stuff.
Wait, what's the blue here? Is that?
That might just be lights.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing anything blue like that. Although the lights are pretty cool. They do like charging things, like it'll tell you how much charge you have. So what's nice about this version, it's a very luxurious inside. The seats are very comfortable. And it's a expensive car. This is a $100,000 vehicle, which is crazy. For a
do you know the spec one that you drove? Did it tell you how much it cost? If you all
yeah, it was $100,000.
Okay, well, all spec'd out, it's 100.
I mean, it basically comes spec'd out. Like,
yeah,
the GMC version is kind of like the, it's like the Lexus to the Toyota kind of thing. So it's got the same frunk as the Silverado EV, which is not as big as the F-150 frunk, but still pretty large. Which it also has a nice plug inside. The great thing about these vehicles is they have, there's air suspension on these. You can raise and lower it 2 inches, so it's got 4 inches of travel. Really smooth drive, can tow a ton. You can actually super cruise tow, which is, I don't know how many other vehicles can do that. I don't know if the Cybertruck can do full self-driving with towing.
I know that the Model Y cannot autopilot I think it cannot do it if you are in tow mode.
Right.
But you can tow if you're not in tow mode too, and then use autopilot, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I don't tow often with this.
Yeah, so this does Super Cruise tow, and I tried it, and it worked really well. I mean, it's a pretty sweet vehicle. Also, the Chevy, a lot of the Silverados and this have that back gate that folds away, so you can put down your back seats, put in a bunch of kayaks or whatever, and kind of drive with the back open. And then this one also has 4-wheel steering, so you can do the crab walk like the Hummer. It goes 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. But the coolest thing for me is like the power out. Like they had this video down at the bottom, you can kind of tell. They had an Airstream, so it'd be a little windy that day, I guess. But so this shows all the outlets.
So you had something plugged in the front.
They had a frunk. They had a power bar coming out of the charge port, that thing. And then you can see in the background there's the 240 volt, which goes directly into the airstream.
Well, that's cool.
And that powers all the heating and the cooling and the refrigerator and the, everything basically.
So you basically, instead of having to go to a campground that has like utilities, your
Yeah.
car is your utilities there.
Exactly.
So everywhere is a campground.
And with that 205 kilowatt hour battery, forever. I mean, weeks you can go. I mean, they had a coffee, they were just doing all kinds of stuff off of that thing. They were charging this cyberquad that looking thing as well. I should talk to you about that. I know you're into those things.
Oh.
So yeah, super cool vehicle, but $100,000. That's the downside. GM's energy thing was also cool, but the switchover when the power went out was a couple seconds. And as we know, Tesla's and some even LG and Panasonic I think have those gateways, like off the shelf gateways. When the power goes out, it's a couple milliseconds between the time where the batteries take over. So
you have some electronics that don't shut down. Like depending on the type of electronics you have some that don't even see it.
Yeah.
But what am I looking at here? So that's the bidirectional charger, I assume.
Yeah, that's a bidirectional charger.
There's so many things here.
Those things on the right are the batteries.
Yeah.
One of those is the gateway. I think the one on the left is the gateway.
This one.
And yeah, so that's the one that switches over. And I think that one is like the inverter for the solar.
Yeah, that would make sense actually.
So and they have that nice backplane, and I was talking to the engineer guy, and he said, this is version 1. Version 2 is going to have a DC backplane. So we've talked about that in the past, where all these things are 400 volts DC. Why do we have to go to DC to AC to DC to AC like 10 times? So they're also thinking that way, and hopefully soon there'll be like a DC backplane, which will enable much faster charging as well. If you can, take power from the grid, power from the solar, power from the batteries, and concentrate it all at 400 volts into the car, you may be able to charge it at 50 kilowatts or something at home, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, was this at a customer's home that got the installation, or was this like a demo? Or?
I think what happened is that somebody, one of the people wanted something like this, and they basically donated their home for a couple of days, and GM installed this in their house.
I mean, this is like several tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It was a good deal.
Worth a couple of days, yeah. So overall, your take on the Denali?
Great. I mean, it's fantastic. Like if you're looking for a pickup truck and you have a huge budget, I would recommend this for sure.
Yeah, if money is no object, like this is the best pickup truck available right now, I would assume.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a great ride too. I mean, it behaves really nicely.
It's just ultra heavy. Like you probably don't feel it that much, obviously, with that power, but it's like it's a heavy vehicle when you carry around a 205 kilowatt hour battery pack.
For sure.
You're not kidding around. All right. New lineup for Audi at the e-tron GT. So you have the e-tron GT now, you have the S e-tron GT, and you have the RS e-tron GT, all 2025. And the RS the whole lineup got upgraded, but the RS specifically got a big upgrade in terms of capacity, with now just short of 1,000 horsepower and 900 something. I don't know where I have the full figures here. The design also is like, I mean, it's not a giant upgrade to the design, but I think it's the best looking electric GT out there.
I agree. I'm really kind of tempted at this vehicle. Like, if I don't upgrade my Model Y to a Model Y, this is like definitely on the short list of. I would probably get a used one because the used ones
are cheap.
Yeah, they're very cheap.
And I assume they would get even cheaper now that this thing. The upgrade is out now. Like,
with 1,000 horsepower. Jeez.
Yeah, 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds. But also you get like all of Audi's luxury, all of their experience with handling and suspension and all that. You have a new 105 battery pack that also 105 kilowatt hour battery pack that boosts the range a little bit up to 300 miles. That's for which version? The S e-tron and the RS. There's no range figure just yet, so that's for the S. The interior looks awesome too, and Audi seats are also one of my favorites. And I can say that I just spent the whole week in them. Not this one, but Audi seats. Also, Audi has some of the best DC fast charging. So that now it's increased to 320 kilowatts of peak charging. But the best thing about Audi is not just the peak charging; is their entire charging curve is very efficient, and they're able to keep that high charge rate, not necessarily 320, but at least high charge rate throughout a higher state of charge of the battery pack, which result in this case a 10 to 80% charge in just 18 minutes for an even bigger battery pack now. So it's very good. They have also very good regenerative braking in Audi vehicle, and in this one, obviously, if you have more power, you have more ways to recuperate it too, up to 400 kilowatts of recuperation during charging. It's insane. Yeah, I have a good story on that about the Audi that I tested this week, but again, I cannot tell you about it until 2 weeks. So a few pictures here of the new lineup. It's beautiful.
And that's tempting. And you got the nice big back seats. I mean, not huge back seats. It's basically a Taycan, but with
it's
Audi
a Taycan,
luxury.
but just a little bit more like, I feel less aggressive, but more modern, and a little bit. It's like more luxurious than sporty. Like,
Yep.
But still the performance is there, obviously.
Yep.
It's not cheap. The S start at 125,000 and the RS at 167,000. But you're talking about supercar level here, so, or hypercar. People like to call me hypercar now. All right, they've been teasing it forever, but Hyundai has now officially debuted the Ioniq 9, their new third-row SUV, which is going to compete with Kia's EV9. So it was unveiled at the LA Auto Show. I should have had
Jamie.
Jamie's on. Like, Jamie just commented on us. So should we join?
Jamie, get on the screen here.
Oh, he's probably not gonna be ready. Like, his hair is not gonna be
I'll send you a link, Jamie.
Camera ready. Yeah, we should have Jamie on, because actually I didn't have time to read this article. Also, so I don't know if you can send him a link if he. He says link me in.
All right.
He's camera ready, everyone. So we're gonna have Jamie join us on in a second. Let me skip this one. We're gonna go back to the Ioniq 9 in a second, because Jamie actually went to the LA Auto Show and he checked this out. I think he checked this out, the EV9 or EV6 too. So I might skip that out. And he's gonna want to comment on the Jaguar redesign too. So let's talk a bit about that, because Jaguar, is that how you pronounce it? They want to pronounce it Jaguar, I think.
Jaguar.
Like that.
Yeah.
Jaguar, yeah, something like that. It's a brand in crisis. Let's not hide it. They are not doing well. They haven't been doing well in a while, and they are just rebranding completely, changing the company completely, and they're going electric and they're going bold. So I want to give them a shot here, because I think they're going in the right direction. It's just that the way that they launch their new brand has been a bit criticized by a lot of people, because a lot of people see them trying to be Apple, and them going a little bit too much away from the rebranding. But that's kind of the point that they're doing. They are trying to change the whole thing completely. And but some are seeing as like they are giving up on what made Jaguar great before, which was like the performance pedigree and the sports car pedigree that all they have. And now it's more like, we're trying to be like this kind of tech company that's cool. It's not. I'm sure that's not their actual the way that they're presenting that. But one of the main thing they change is the logo, which is kind of a mix of lowercase and uppercase letter. Personally, I don't even mind it that much.
Yeah, I don't care. It's not good or bad to me.
Yeah, it's not worse executed. I don't know if so. This is also the new logo of the actual Jaguar. It's not. I don't see. You don't have it combined anywhere. Oh, that's new though. Okay.
And spend some time on building EVs. The logo is not the problem.
Yeah, how obviously. But at the same time, so they are using this rebranding right now with the new logos, with the new like catchphrases, whatever you want to call it, to hype up their first new vehicle they're going to be unveiled, which is this thing here, which is going to be a four-door GT. And hard to tell much from this heavy, heavy, heavy camouflage, other than the obvious, which is this thing as a hood. I
Yeah.
mean, look at that. That's a long hood. Do we have other picture? Yeah, yeah. This is also a crazy angle. Again, with the camouflage, I don't know. Like, it might look worse, the hood, and how prominent the front end is. Like, it's really out there. Also, the back is obviously quite weird, but this could also be camouflage stuff. There's a few things that were unveiled, so that were confirmed. So first of all, deliveries in 2026, so it's still not quite yet. Over 330 miles of range, 700 kilometers, nearly 575 horsepower, and a starting price of £100,000, $130,000. We have our own Jimmy Dow here. Do you have any
I got
thoughts?
I gotta say, well, it's interesting that you're talking about the giant hood because it does sort of recall the early E-types, which are my favorite car ever. I mean,
Mm.
obviously the design of the car looks nothing like that as we can see here, but the giant hood on the E-types, where it's like one third of the car is everything else, and then two thirds is the front hood.
But
Uh,
the E-Type was not a four-door, right?
uh, I don't know if they ever made any four doors, but yeah, I think they were mostly two doors.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just it's a completely different
Yeah.
situation than what we're talking about here. But the long hood is sort of a old Jaguar design language, so that could work. I really, honestly, I like the redesign. I like the rebrand. I think it's fun. You might as well. Everybody's seeing it. Everybody's talking about it, which is
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you want.
Exactly.
And uh, they were one of the first brands to really go all electric, to say they were going to go all electric.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't seen that much since then. We saw the I-Pace and that's it. But then, like, I think it was, I don't know, 20, who knows, 16, 17. Like, it was
It was
early
early.
that
17.
they said we're going all electric by 2030, which is also an earlier target than everybody else has. And then we heard kind of nothing about it until now, but now they seem like they're really kind of committing to it. I don't know. I think it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, we'll see about that, because obviously I think financially and unit wise they're having some issues. So it's kind
Hmm.
of this or nothing, most likely, for Jaguar. Like, this needs to
Sure.
work for them. But again, if they're
Well,
going all electric, like, we're all for it.
there's always are they still owned by Tata? Yeah,
Yeah.
they're owned by Tata. So whatever, they've got infinite money.
Yeah, but
You know.
like here in the US, for example, like, I don't think the US was ever like a giant market for Jaguar, obviously. But now that they are Jaguar and Land Rover, and the two are often combined at the sales level, at the dealership level, and the US market being big on SUVs, and Jaguar having some SUVs, but generally they are less well reviewed, let's say, than the Land Rover's one. So it's that has like basically killed their market in the US, because you have the E-Pace, or the E-Pace and all the other SUVs from Jaguar, and then next door you have the Land Rovers that are much better vehicles, and people just go with those. So they're gonna have to rethink the whole thing, and that looks like that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right, talk to us a little bit about the Ioniq 9.
Yeah. Okay. So we didn't get the sort of private time with this vehicle ahead of time or anything. I just went and checked that out on the show floor after seeing all the press release information and all that. Um, and I gotta say, from the press release, from seeing the exterior and all that, I really don't like the design,
Hmm.
and I think it looks like a hearse on the back end.
A good hearse.
But I went and sat inside this thing, and holy damn, the interior is fantastic. It's so nice in there. I spent a full 45 minutes, like after the show closed last night, just hanging out in the back of that car, in the third row of the car, with a couple of other EV journalists in the second row, and we were talking for 45 minutes. I was comfortable. I was in the third row.
Did they spin the seats around?
No, they didn't spin the seats around. Unfortunately, that might make it to like Korea. I mean, they're saying it's going to make it to Korea, which is crazy because we've seen this on a million concept cars. But there's like almost no chance it's going to happen in the US because of federal safety standards. So with the seats spun forward, like this leg rest thing is kind of
Looks huge, but I think that's a picture, right?
yeah, it doesn't actually work that way. Like there's no point for the leg rest when the seat is there. Even if you slide the seat all the way back, you just can't put your feet up. It's not
Yeah,
like
it looks like the front seat is not there in that picture.
yeah, I think they cheated that, or they like somehow pushed the front seat all the way forward into a completely unnatural position.
Yeah. I mean, look at that here. Like you could see that
Yeah.
it wouldn't fit at all.
Yeah, so maybe like for little kids or something like that, the leg rest would work out. But so leg rest is a little unnecessary. However, that seat is really, really spacious and really, really comfortable. The headrest is actually incredible. It's super plush. Like it's hard to explain it, but when I sat in it and when other people sat in it, we were watching the first reaction, and they just sit there, put their head back, and go, oh, like make this like excited exhalation about how relaxing it is. So I really, really love the interior. It is still a concept car interior. It might not be the exact same, but it's really close to real. So I suspect it'll be around like this. And it was just really spacious, comfortable. Even the third row was good. There's some weird buttons that you kind of have to figure out which button does which, and the seats like take kind of forever to fold up and down. But it was really nice in there. It was one of the more comfortable car interiors that I've maybe ever sat in. And that second row seems sort of designed to be driven around. Like even the exterior design of the vehicle sort of gives you a little bit of like the Asian executive feeling to it. And I think the second row definitely will be very popular in markets where people have drivers, but also just anyone who sits in that row is going to be happy. That door, by the way, is enormous. It almost feels like when you're sitting inside it and looking out the huge second row door, it almost feels like you're in a minivan because there's just so much. It's just long.
Looks like that.
Yeah, and it's got these, privacy screens that you can slide up. And
is there going to be a
like
Genesis version of this?
I'm not sure. They had the GV70 there, but I didn't get a chance to sit in it. And people were pretty excited about that, but that's a little smaller than this. So
I'm actually not mad at the. I understand what you mean by it looks like a hearse. But I'm not mad at the side look. But to be honest with you, the front look I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I think about this is I think they really nailed the design on the Ioniq 5. I think it's perfect, and I think it's very consistent because they have this sort of the 5, not the 9. They have this sort of techie, fun, quirky sort of vibe to it, and they have that pixel aesthetic that kind of goes through the whole car. On the lights, there's these pixels. In the seats, there's even some like embroidery sort of that looks like pixels, and it's a really interesting sort of quirky, good, consistent design. And then this car takes part of that. They still have the pixels everywhere, but then the exterior design is sort of a little more swoopy and kind of staid, classy, or something like that. And I think those two ideas sort of clash a little bit. So I feel like it's
here.
Yeah, that's weird. The little eyebrow there is just a completely unnecessary busy design.
That
Element
I've
right
never
there.
seen before on anything. That doesn't remind me of anything. It just
So it's
looks...
it's a little weird. I think that one interesting thing though about this is that with the Ioniq 5 and the EV6, Kia and Hyundai sort of almost perfectly split the market on design, where
Hmm.
it seems like almost everybody likes one and hates the other.
Yeah.
And it's, swap. So they're not competing against themselves, because nobody's ever going to want to buy one and also want to buy the other.
Hmm.
Um, and I think they've kind of done the same thing with the EV9 and the Ioniq 9, except in reverse, where the Kia EV9 is sort of the techie, boxy sort of one, and the Ioniq 9 is a little more swoopy and traditional. Uh, so I think that's good that they've done that. It's just, I think people who want the Ioniq 9 probably should value interior more than exterior.
Hmm. And spec wise, I assume like same thing as the EV9.
I think it's got a little bigger battery than the EV9, and a little slower acceleration. But Hyundai, we were talking to a Hyundai rep who said he thinks they're sandbagging
Oh.
the numbers on the acceleration on the Ioniq 9, and it felt fine. We took several laps around a very short indoor test track, and it's a peppy vehicle. It's a electric, so it's going to be, although it's also over 6,000 pounds. So you know, but I think it's 110.3 kilowatt hour battery,
That's pretty
or
big.
maybe that was the EV9. Anyway, it's a big battery, so there's plenty of range and plenty of
It's a big
push.
battery and it's a big vehicle, but compared to like a Silverado or a Sierra, it's like half the
Right.
size, which is crazy.
Yeah, and also it'll have similar fast charging performance, 10 to 80% in 24 minutes, which is not as fast as the Ioniq 5 and EV6, which do it in 18 minutes. However, it is a much larger battery. And that same Hyundai rep we were talking to said that it can consume the full battery of a Model Y when charging in 14 minutes. So the entire capacity of a Model Y battery can be entered into this battery in 14 minutes.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Uh,
And it's gonna use the same connector as a Model Y.
and the
It's gonna use a
same
NACS.
connector. This is, I think, the first car by any manufacturer other than Tesla that will never have a CCS.
Ah, that's fair. Yeah, because the Ioniq is coming now, but
Yeah.
sorry, the Ioniq 5 is coming now, but it's it's a new model year. It's not an actual new car.
hmm So
Good
the
point.
first one to debut and launch with an export and actually hit the road. I mean, assuming it hits the road in 6 months or so, as they said it will.
Yeah, they say
Uh,
for first half of 2025. Did they share like a rough idea of pricing? No.
Someone said something about it's going to be around the price of the Palisade,
Which is how
which
much?
I don't actually know what the price of. No, that's not right. I'm
Yeah.
getting I'm getting my numbers wrong, because the
I mean,
Palisade
probably
starts at
closer to the
36.
EV9, I would assume.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close to the EV9.
And that
Okay,
starts a
not
little bit
Palisade.
over 50, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I don't know gas cars at all. What's a Hyundai 3-row SUV?
Telluride?
Palisade? 3-row Palisade? I don't know. I think it's probably going to cost somewhere around 70 grand, just because that's what the
Yeah,
EV9 costs. So it's probably around there.
that makes sense. All right, stick around because we're going to talk about the EV9 GT that was unveiled too. But
Yeah.
before that, let's talk a little bit about our sponsor for this week's episode,
All right.
Allset Auto.
All right. Allset Auto. Thank you. Allset Auto is North America's leader in paint protection and restyling services, offering colored wraps, paint protection film, window tint, ceramic coatings, and more exclusively on EVs. In fact, they have worked on over 7,000 electric vehicles, including having already wrapped 300 Cybertrucks in colored PPF. The company currently offers the largest selection of colored PPF in the industry, with more than 25,000 options in gloss, matte, metallic, and even color shifting. Allset Auto currently operates in 15 markets across the U.S. and Canada, and is seeking to award new franchise opportunities to qualified candidates who are passionate about the EV industry. To find a location near you or to get the free digital franchising brochure and market analysis, visit allsetauto.com. That's Tesla spelled backwards, ALSETAUTO.com. Allset Auto, we don't protect cars, we protect EVs.
Awesome, thank you, Allset.
And it specifically protects against bird poop, I saw on that website.
You never know. There's nothing. There's nothing that pisses me more than I just wash my car and then I come back in and I see some bird poop on top of it. It's like they do it on
Mhm.
purpose, and that's the only time I see it. Too. It's like right after I wash it. All
They
right, so
know. The crows are smart, right? They know.
Yeah, that's fine.
um, all right, so talked about the Ioniq 9, which is a brand new vehicle for Hyundai, but the EV9 has been around for a while, and now Kia is like, let's do a GT performance version of the
Yeah.
three-row SUV.
Why not?
And you actually
It's
saw that thing
only
at the show.
yeah, yeah.
So
So they had it there, and there weren't a lot of differences. I just sat in it for a couple of minutes. They did bolster the seats more, and they added green accents everywhere, like a neon green sort of performance accents. Um, but other than that, it's a Kia EV9 GT, just faster, basically.
How much faster we're talking here?
They said it's 4.3 seconds, 0 to 60.
that's pretty nuts for a vehicle that big.
That is pretty silly. It's a 7/10ths down from the previous peak.
Which is
It's
also pretty
500.
good, though, for
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
third row
yeah,
SUV.
it's more than enough. Like it's crazy. And anything under 4 seconds is like
5 seconds.
painful to me.
Right.
Oh, for that, yeah.
The kids
Yeah,
are not
yeah.
going to
So
enjoy
this
that in
wouldn't
the
be.
third row.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This wouldn't be painful, but this is like you don't really need to go uh much further than that. Um. But yeah, so it's just some interior touches, faster performance. It has the fake gear shift thing, which they also have on the Ionic 5N, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a fun thing, I guess.
If it brings people
Like,
over.
exactly. I expect that almost everybody will show it off as a party trick and then leave it turned off 98% of the time.
It's the
Because it's
actual smart summon of Kia.
yeah, exactly. It's well the thing is so we haven't tried the Kia version, so we don't know. I'm just talking about having tried the Ioniq 5N version.
Mm-hmm.
Um I expect they will be a slightly different but close close to the same idea. One thing that I thought was really funny about the 5N is that if you have it in fake first gear, it literally just won't go over 20 miles an hour. Like you can sit there and the car goes and you're sitting there in traffic like trying to get it to move and you have to use the pedal shifter. It's like, okay, you're really committed to this stupid bit that you've come up with here. So you kind of have to laugh at that. And I didn't expect to like it. It is kind of fun. I begrudgingly accept that it's kind of fun, but like it's still just making your car slower for no reason, or more difficult to drive for more reason.
Mm-hmm. And no
But
no
whatever.
pricing on this too. Also coming next year. First half.
Oh, I don't. Did I write the pricing in there? I don't. I
I
don't
don't see
know if they
pricing.
had it. Um,
They
Sorry, I
usually,
was doing a lot of these quickly.
these are like, if you have to ask, prices.
Yeah.
I thought they had pricing on it. I guess I must not
I
have
mean,
written
I would
pricing
like.
in there.
I like the EV9. Like, I would consider it if I would be in the market for a third row SUV. But I wouldn't for unless it's like you tell me like it's $4,000 more. Maybe I'd consider it a little bit more power.
I would
Looks a
say,
little bit cooler.
I would
But more
guess it's
than
an
that, it's like
$80,000 car.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing just under 80,000.
Mhm.
That's what I uh, would sort of expect it to be, given the pricing of the rest of the thing, and given potentially staying open to being able to access tax credits and things like that. I did have a really interesting conversation with both Kia's corporate communications and head of regulatory strategy
Was
about what we think is going to happen in terms of tax credits. And we're all, I think, kind of on the same page that we think there's less chance of them going away than a lot of.
Well,
Everyone's
this
talking about
week
it being certain, but I think there's some chances that it may not.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I put that in the show notes, but I wanted to. I don't know. I don't know. I'm tired as hell, so maybe I just skipped it without seeing it. But I wanted to do talk. Let's talk about that a little bit. He's gonna give us a break of Hyundai and Kia, which we
Yeah.
had
All
three
right.
articles in a row, and you actually did write the article based on the New York Times report. Did the New York Times share sources on that, or is just like where's
I
that coming
don't
from?
know that they had sources. I think it might have just been one of those,
We
you
heard
know,
through the grapevines. So,
yeah,
according to them, according to the report from the New York Times, Ford, GM, as well as Stellantis, so the three
yeah,
main
the big
non-Tesla,
three,
yeah, the big three. Even though it's hard to put Stellantis in the big three these
right?
days, with Chrysler having like half a vehicle program in the U.S. They have Ram, and that's about Ram and Dodge. I should say Dodge. Yeah, the Dodge is not too
Jeep.
bad. Yeah, Jeep is not there too. All right, okay, let's. Yeah, still a big tree. Um, they reportedly told the Trump transition team that they would like to keep the federal tax credit for electric vehicle,
Yeah,
which
well,
is like,
it was more specifically the emissions rules, the EPA emissions rules. So separate from the federal tax
oh
credit, but
yeah,
I think just the idea in general is that like please stop changing everything
hmm
for no reason because we've made our peace with all of this. We're ready to continue as
they
things are.
invested. The investments are made, so you cannot
It,
like take them back. You can take some of it back maybe, but not all of it.
yeah, well, I mean, you can take it back, but it also means, lost time, maybe, certain commitments go elsewhere, and then money that they were getting from other sources can't be involved anymore, and then people get angry, jobs get cut, all that kind of stuff. Like those are all things that nobody wants to do.
hmm
And because those jobs are already happening. I mean, the EV6 just got announced as a Georgia built car yesterday. So they're going to build the EV6 in Georgia as of yesterday. And yesterday also was the same day that all the automakers are going to Trump, who's saying that he's going to kill this legislation and emissions rules and everything that is what brought the EV6 to Georgia in the first place. So weird timing on all of that.
hmm
and
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean
just
it's
yeah, you don't want to stop that car from being built when it we just brought manufacturing of a car to America now, and changing the rules means that we're gonna what just send it back to Korea all of a sudden, like.
no, and the EV6 is in that kind of segment, that kind of price range where the uh, the the volume can be there. It's also helped by the tax credit. I don't know. We're just not necessarily talking about the tax credit here, but the emissions credits also. But those are like for a manufacturer like Kia. They are in that level right now where the emission credits are starting to make sense for them because their EV volumes are compensating right now for their gasoline production. So for them, it's like, yeah, we're good with it. And I assume Ford, Stellantis, and GM might, even though they not might be there, they have made the investment in order to plan to be there. So they're like, yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
make that much sense for them.
and not only that, but they had a huge union negotiation last year, and a lot of those negotiations, the agreements that they made, relied on battery manufacturing plants in America.
Yeah,
And that's like all of their workers are saying, well, you told us that you're going to do this, so they're going to have to renegotiate with the unions again and go through another strike again, maybe if this happens, and then it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be the government and the unions are going to be on different sides of things, and it's just going to be such chaos. And in fact, we're already seeing that because Stellantis agreed they were going to invest in reopening the Belvedere factory as a battery plant. And then they've pushed back plans on that. And the UAW was considering a month ago potentially striking again to force them to go through with that battery factory plan. And, all of this changing regulatory environment is the exact kind of thing that companies are constantly asking not to have.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Um,
So we can't just change the auto landscape every 4 years. We can't do that
you know,
anymore.
and it
So
takes 7 years to build a car to go
right.
from
So
nowhere to having it on the
So
road. It
hopefully
takes
there's
7
some
years.
leniency in there, you know, in shifting everything over.
Yeah.
Maybe, I
And
mean, I hate to say this, but maybe Elon influence might be beneficial in that regard. I don't know, maybe not.
well, I mean, one would hope, but it
One
doesn't
would hope.
seem like
No, it doesn't
it
seem like
is.
that.
I feel like he's sort of forgotten that he's an auto executive. Yeah.
Yeah, his focus is on cutting everything right now because he's promised 2 trillion cuts to the American people, and
Yeah,
you need to cut everything to do that.
That's
So
literally, you need to cut everything and you're still 300 billion away
exactly.
if
So
you cut
for
literally every possible thing.
so he's not
All
even
right.
incentivized to go with that.
So
Yeah,
let's
let's
get
talk.
on. Yeah.
Let's talk about the EV6 2025 model year, which also gonna have the NACS.
Yeah. Not only that, this is something that they didn't even mention in the press release. The EV6 is getting the same V2H bidirectional capabilities of the EV9. It used to be able to only output 1.8 kilowatts. Now it's able to output 12 kilowatts,
Yeah,
Wow,
which
that's
is more
significant.
than an F-150 Lightning, even
yeah,
on
that's right.
the
It's
top
like
spec.
5,
So
no, 9.
The,
that backs up your house. That's like a
yeah.
no easy.
Yeah, you can do everything with that. I mean, I
That's
don't think
huge.
anything else does 12. I think even the Silverado does maybe 10 or something,
Yeah,
10.8
Silverado
or something
tops
like
out
that.
around 10.
Yeah. So like that's almost the best output that we've seen V2L wise.
Yeah.
Now they're not working directly with a GM Energy type system like you saw with the Denali,
What's the output?
but
Like how do you get that much power out? Is it at 240 volts AC or is it
I I didn't get that. I
okay?
didn't try that deep into it. They told me 12 kilowatts. They told me that the EV9 can do 12 kilowatts and that the EV6 is just getting that same thing.
Cool.
So that's very cool. I didn't see it printed anywhere, but I talked to people who ought to know the answer.
Yeah, we should
So
follow up because that'll be an interesting post.
yeah, I also told them, hey, you can market it like that. You can say, hey, this is better at this than the F-150 Lightning,
Right.
and it's a little sports car. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's getting that virtual gear shift that we talked about with the EV9 GT. Um, and it's getting a
Is it
bigger
just for the
battery.
GT? Just for the GT too for the EV6?
Yeah, just
Okay,
for the
okay,
GT. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's getting a bigger battery. It's getting over-the-air updates, which I didn't know it didn't have.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. But the connected car navigation cockpit is getting an update, and it will now have access to over-the-air updates. So it seems like a pretty good refresh. Maybe not as big a refresh as on the Ioniq 5, where they they added a rear wiper, which was such a big deal for the Ioniq 5. But yeah, it seems like a pretty solid refresh for the EV6 here.
Yeah, agreed. All right, we have just a few more news items to discuss real quick. We're going to go through them pretty fast because they're not that big of a news. But after that, we're going to take you guys' questions. So if you have any questions for us, put them in the comment section right now. We're going to get to them in a few minutes. It can be about any of the subject we just discussed just now or any other subject in the EV world that you want Seth, Jamie, or my take on. All right. We just talk about Stellantis having quite a bit of a slowdown, and their Ram, their first electric pickup under the Ram brand, was supposed to come by the end of the year, and now it's been pushed next year. But still in the first half, so no more than about a 6 months delay. And the outgoing CEO, Mr. Tavares, said that we are just facing a very significant amount of workload, so it's just too much on their plate right now, and they want to be prudent in the validation process, so we take our time with it. So, I mean, they're already the last one to make an electric pickup truck, so what's another 6 months gonna make a difference? If they can actually come out with something better within those 6 months, I think people won't be too will be okay with it.
Their press conference was extremely EV centric at LA Auto Show. Every one of the Stellantis brands had a lot to say, and I'm pretty excited about what Dodge has coming down, which is interesting because it's not the most sort of environmentally aligned brand, or sub brand of Stellantis. The Dodge and Ram sub brands are both kind of, classic gassers.
They still plan to do an extended range version of it?
Yeah, they were calling it the Rev is the EV version, and then the Ram Charger is the extended range version.
Okay.
So, and I think they said that the Rev is coming before the Ram Charger, but I'm not sure. They both look pretty interesting to me. I think having a big battery with a generator could work in the electric pickup space.
Yeah, it's similar.
Didn't they do a third row pickup? Wasn't that one of their options?
Oh, I think that was just for the concept.
Okay.
That really cool concept that they showed like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I love that concept.
Is there even a 3-row pickup now?
No.
Is it? No.
No, they were gonna have like seats in the bed that you could like fold up or something like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, we also have a new recall from Hyundai. They were calling as many as 145,000 EVs in the US built between 2022 and 2025. So Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, all the Genesis and all that. It's due to a charger. The integrated charging control unit can possibly get damaged and fail to charge a 12-volt battery. And they say that somehow this can result in a loss of power. So, I think most EVs are supposed to be designed so that if the 12-volt fails, like you still have power for at least a while, though. But
yeah, that's weird to me. I don't know why we're still using 12-volt for everything.
Yeah, and that in the first place. But in this case, now they say that they don't have the fix just yet. There's no accident or anything like that has been reported or anything, so it's safe to drive. And they are going to
slow roll out. Probably.
Yeah, I would assume. And they are going to start reaching out soon to the consumers about the fix, which is going to be you're going to have to bring it back apparently to the dealership to have them check the charging control units, and if they see the damage, they're going to replace it for you. This is the second time. Yeah,
something interesting about 12 volts and not charging off of the main battery. I forgot to mention this. The Ioniq 9 has, I think, 600 watt USB-C charging ports throughout the car, and they're all charged off of the lithium battery, not the 12 volt, which is pretty cool.
Huh.
Yeah, so, I mean, you've got 600 watts worth of USB-C power. So it's not coming out of a 12 volt. It's coming out of the lithium battery.
I think the fastest USB-C charger currently is 200 watts, and that's for desktop machines. So
right, yeah.
So
but it's six separate ports, but I don't. Right. I think they each have 100 watts.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
All right, and finally, before we jump into you guys' comments, Northvolt has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy this week. So Northvolt is famous for being started by two former Tesla employees that were behind the Gigafactory in Nevada, and their idea was to build a supply chain and battery cell manufacturing industry in Europe, and then expand throughout the rest of the world. And they were doing that, and they got a lot of money from a lot of different partners, including Volkswagen and I think BMW and a few others. But things are not going as well as they thought. I mean, I think the main thing is that they expanded way too fast. Like they didn't finish their first factory, and then they built another one already, and then they built a third one, and then they announced like two more after that, and then they started closing some of them, and now they find themselves in $5.8 billion in debt, and they cannot sustain that level of debt, so they are seeking some protection from their creditors. And this process of Chapter 11, I always love to read a Chapter 11 press release from a company where, and see how they're gonna try to make that look good. And in this case, it's like, it's just gonna unlock $245 million of financing for us. Okay, yeah, it's coming somewhere, and that's nearly coming from the creditors. But anyway. Uh, they basically said it's like almost like business as usual, basically, despite the Chapter 11. So they still gonna go through with their project in Germany for a new factory. They are keeping going their factory in Sweden where they're based. And they recently announced a $7 billion project in Quebec, actually right next to where I grew up in Saint-Basile-le-Grand. And it's a $7 billion project that they somehow got $9 billion from the government for it. So great move from the Quebec government and Canadian government, as per usual, giving $7 billion to a company about to go bankrupt. But they say that this project is still gonna happen despite the bankruptcy. But I'm gonna believe it when I see it.
Maybe the Canadian government can buy it like GM, like US
Wouldn't
did
be
with
mad.
GM.
Wouldn't be mad at that. And we do have like that. The thing that people got especially mad about with this project is that we do have several projects right now from Canadian companies looking to build battery cells in Canada, because we have the entire supply chain, but we don't have the actual battery cell production. We have like the cathode production, we have the anode production, we have all the processing of graphite, lithium behind that, but we don't have the actual cell production or the electric vehicle production, really. And those are the last two steps that we need to do. And instead, they gave the switches company like all the money in the world. All right, let's jump into the comments.
All right. Carl says that one way to increase Tesla's demand is if Tesla had a real leader, they would have offered a palette of completely different colors, simple way to breathe new life into tire design that lacks demand. Grabber blue, deep harvest gold, emerald forest green, matte gray, or wet cement pearl gray. I probably would be okay with a forest green Model Y. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, more options is always good. I would help sales a little bit, but like how much? We're talking like 2, 3, 5%, which for a company as big as Tesla is worth like hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, which is great, but you need more than that at this point. Like Tesla is flat for the whole year. I think you need more than that.
All right, Fango Lives.
That was me writing on my wrong account.
Oh, okay.
You can skip back to the next ones.
Full 35 seconds though for the switchover vehicle home. Yeah. That's crazy. I guess they're improving, because it was only like, I would say 5 seconds, give or take.
How long is that gas generator though?
Yeah, well, no. So that was when they were switching over to the car. With yours, they were switching over to the battery, which was 5 seconds, which is still too long.
Right.
But the 35 seconds, they were sort of showing off, how quickly you can switch the home over, and I'm like, this is sort of interminable. Like, what is going on right now?
All right, Patrick Dolce said, were you aware that Tesla's referral program does not apply to Model 3 in Canada? Just ordered an inventory with a referral code and it did not work. Any info?
I was not aware personally.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, unless it's quite recent and I missed it. But the Model 3 in Canada, why would the Model 3 not be in there?
And could have been a mistake. And
yeah, it might have been a mistake. All right, these are Jamie. I remember looking at the Audi e-tron GT when it first landed. We were floored by the design and gutted that it was an unobtainable price. Why bother with Halo EVs? Yeah, I mean,
sold a few.
They sold a few, and it's like the older ones can be leased now for like $300 or $400 a month. So
I see a lot of them in California, but this is the place for it.
Yeah,
you see every EVs in California.
Yeah,
ever existed. I'm sure you see some Ocean, like that Fisker Ocean.
I just saw Karma Rivero yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, they're
coming
back.
Somebody reviewed one like 100,000 miles on one or something crazy.
Huh.
They just started production again, like last week or something. They're gonna make 100 of them this year.
If only you didn't have to be a gymnast to get in and out of the rear seats on the third row SUVs. Hyundai should have left the third row market for their sister EV9.
This is where that giant door on the Ioniq really helped. Like it wasn't bad.
Okay. So
yeah. and
just
how,
to compare, how tall are you? You're 6 foot.
I'm 6 feet. I do get around into small places pretty well. I can, roll around and jump over things and stuff, squeeze through things, but like it was pretty good to get in and out of. Of course, this also had the 6-seat captain seat thing, so you can go in the middle.
Yeah.
But I think even otherwise, just that giant second door, I think will really help with third row accessibility.
All right. What do we think the Ioniq 9 should start price wise? I mean, it comes with the rear wheel drive, small battery.
I mean, should would be nice to be able to get in the
55?
50s. Yeah.
Even
I mean,
in the $60,000 range is not too bad too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big vehicle.
Yeah.
I think it'll be between, same as the EV9, between the mid 50s to the 70-ish.
How big is the low battery, the small battery? Do we know?
I think it's
Like
just one
70 or 80?
battery.
Okay.
I think it was just one battery.
At
right?
110? Yeah.
And then the different ranges are because of wheels and performance and motors and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Carl says, if I was Hyundai, I would have bought Lucid and gotten a Gravity instead. Not that I'm a fan of SUVs, but Lucid isn't likely to survive despite getting some great engineering.
They've got Saudi Arabia behind them.
Yeah.
Every time they're in trouble, they get an extra $2 billion.
Yeah, it's an ATM for them right now. So.
All right. There's an EV lobbying group that asked Trump to retain the credits, and the lobbying group includes Tesla. As Joe reported, he was less sure Tesla actually wants them anymore.
Yeah, that might be like Tesla would be listed on their website, but I haven't paid their dues, and they just removed. They haven't removed them yet. Like it could be.
It's
like
also weird because like when all of these credits and emissions things went into place, like Tesla was lobbying strongly for them,
right?
And now their CEO is in there doing otherwise, which makes no sense. Yeah, Alliance for Automotive Innovation. They're like the big group that's everyone. They cover everyone. And John Bodzella is the guy who runs it, and I hate him. He just says nonsense all the time.
Carl says that Tesla is not in that group anymore.
Yeah, I don't think Tesla was ever part of that. This group used to be called Global Automakers.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Years ago, and then they renamed themselves. I will say that going around to everybody who I talked to at the auto show, manufacturer representatives, media, everyone, literally universally, everyone was like, this is crazy. Why would we change all of this stuff? Like, just keep it as it is. And that's even AAI, I think, is currently lobbying not to change the credits. I think John Bodzella probably, if you talk to him, is going to say something like, oh, well, they could use some tweaking. But like, he already said that. He already got the tweaks that he wanted. He was on stage announcing when the emission standards were officially adopted. He went on stage and was like, this is great. These are the best we could get, and so on and so forth. So it really does seem like there's just two people who are trying to torpedo this. And one of them is the CEO of the biggest electric vehicle maker, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, if you take his point of view, is that short term, yes, it's going to hurt Tesla. It's going to hurt everybody else. But long term, it's going to benefit the people that have the best, most competitive pricing and gross margin on electric vehicles, which right now is Tesla. And he saw what happened with EVs and Tesla during the pandemic and the supply chain issues. And he's like, this is going to be basically the same thing. It's just I'm going to create it instead of the pandemic creating it.
The difference with that, though, is that he's forgetting, if that's the mentality that we're going on, then we're assuming that Tesla's competition is every other EV maker and not every other car.
Oh, no, I agree with you that it's going to affect sales, especially in the short term. Like this is kind of like a evil villain kind of approach, where like he sees Tesla. Because I mean, I talked to a bunch of international journalists, not EV journalists, but just auto journalists here, and especially like this guy from Sweden approached me. He actually did an interview with me about it, because he was like, in Sweden we have like 35% penetration rate for EVs right now, and you guys are like at 9%. And then if you remove that, like it's gonna, like they just removed in Sweden some incentive, and it went down for like 40 to 35 or something.
Germany
like that.
Also, yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, it's for you, it's gonna be worse, and then your entire domestic auto industry is gonna just give up on EVs, and then the rest of the world is gonna keep going EVs, and then you're gonna just be with your own domestic market. I'm like, yep, this is exactly
Exactly.
what happened. So now you wanted me to explain basically what was the logic if you are Tesla, what's the logic behind that, and I'm like, so that's why I'm playing devil's advocate here and like trying to get myself in Elon's like evil villain brain here. And I
Right.
think his actual idea is like, yes, short term is gonna hurt Tesla, probably badly. Long term, I think he sees like this crumbling the U.S. domestic auto market, and Tesla being like almost like maybe not a monopoly, but like an oligopoly or something, like just one one big company that does everything in the auto industry in the U.S.
But
In a
essentially, that I think if we take that thought to its actual endpoint, the actual endpoint is that the U.S. auto industry just disappears completely, and China takes over the entire industry. Something's happening with audio right now. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, okay. I think Fred was having an issue on his end. But yeah, so you end up having the actual endpoint is that, like, the Chinese auto industry takes over the uh, American auto industry disappears completely or something. And the best bet of all of this is that Tesla becomes, a big fish in a small pond. Uh, but I mean, that's against the mission, as we've already talked about many times. But also, I just don't see that happening. I don't see this being a benefit.
All right, Fred's got a robot thing happening. Let's move
Yeah.
on. Skeptic says, I reserved an R2 today. Also got a reservation on an Aptera. First one production wins. My money. Congratulations on your R2.
Yeah, probably.
I would
Hey,
put my money on the R2.
they've got a candidate and a rolling candidate in Aptera.
Yeah, I know. I just don't think it's going to get to scale
No,
anytime soon.
right.
Fred, try talking real quick. Nope.
No, no.
All right. Prickly Pear says Big Oil won the election. They won't back down easily. That's true. I think they did. I think it's going to be kind of bad for the EV landscape for a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Anton Grant says a bit unfortunate that one of the least supercharging compatible cars goes NACS first, with inefficient boosting on the car side topping out at 80 to 130 kilowatts, but still probably the right move long term. He's referring to the 400 volt versus 800 volt.
Okay.
The 800 volt cars don't charge quite as fast, but that might change. I know Tesla's V4 superchargers are going to be 800 volt or similar. So
Yeah, I think they're going to be able to
next year,
switch
though.
between the two or something.
yeah, right.
I think long term. Sorry, I missed a big part.
You're
My
back.
microphone kept going, kept
Yeah.
disconnecting. But yeah, I mean those V4 cabinets are able to do that. Now the V4 chargers are already deployed. They're coming next year, and I assume long term Tesla is going to replace the older cabinets with those new ones, and then it should be fine.
Yep. All right. I assume you recommend EVs to friends, relatives every now and then. What are your go-to recommendations to non-EV nerds? I've been recommending, a lot of people are getting off the Model 3, and I recommend the BMW i4, Kia EV6 for that.
I do the
there's
Ionics.
the
for those,
Ioniq as
Ioniq
well.
6 or 5.
hmm Sometimes, the Mustang Mach-E is a good replacement for some things. GM's new stuff is not bad. What else are we talking about?
Use Bolt if they want to save money.
Oh yeah, the used bolt's the way to go.
Rivian if you really want to ball out and
Yeah.
have like the best thing out there.
All right, Dan Oberstay says getting rid of credits will be good for Tesla, bad for the environment. Would love it if you could get the podcast published faster in iTunes. All right, we're telling Kirk, publish fast. Apple Podcast. It does look like Tesla is going to be the last American EV brand standing. 2 or 3 Chinese brands as alternatives. Thoughts?
That was one of the things that the Swedish journalist told me. Is like you think that maybe that's long term it's gonna happen. Like it's gonna be Tesla, probably like a few Chinese company that's gonna try to use that as an opportunity to get in. And I don't like maybe not in the next 4 years, but yeah, it's not impossible.
Yeah. I mean, there might be one, yes, a couple of survivors out of Europe, but Mercedes or something. All right.
All right, that's it for this week's episode of the Electrek Podcast. Thank you for joining us, everyone. If you do enjoy the show, please give us a like, a thumbs up, a subscribe, whatever it is on the app you're watching. And we're going to see you same time, same place next week. Thanks to Jamie to join us this week too. And we're going to see